Dr. Schaeffer, as we have heard, taught Christians the importance of worldview thinking, both in living the Christian life and evangelizing the lost. His influence on the evangelical world is beyond question or estimation. I believe that evangelicalism would not have had the cultural influence it has today had it not been for Francis Schaeffer. We have been given the unprecedented opportunity of making a major contribution to the vital task of keeping alive his legacy, not as an icon to be venerated, but as a Christian scholar evangelist of exceptional cloth, from whom we can learn much in our passion to teach and to reach the nations for Christ.
Because of his interest, I think, and his appreciation of human beings, he would just carry on a conversation. Mm-hmm. What do you do in your life? How do you look at life? What troubles you in life? And he would engage those factors in sympathetic conversation, giving his own resolution, in a sense, to the tensions professed by the other person or stated by the other person, how he would look at it. He would say, precisely because life is so unfair and so forth, that's why I am a Christian, because it is so unfair. Rather than making excuses for it or minimizing it and so forth, acknowledging these are the facts of the real world, and there is a way to understand how they came to be that way. Of course, it's understandable that there are no absolutes in our modern society if you deny that there is a God, or if you make everybody's opinion, private opinion, absolute for that person. And so we mustn't be surprised at our modern age, etc., etc. The second thing that I found so helpful and interesting is that you avoid a conflictual situation, which a person may easily understand to be a judgment, a putting down. He was very sympathetic to the tragic experiences of life that a person has, and then they would talk together as comrades in the tragedy, so to speak, about the outside problem. A human being to human being, rather than confronting each other, well, you dumb guy, why do you see it this way? It's rather, let us as human beings look at it together and see what we can know and how we can deal with the situation. Mm-hmm. And I think that freed people from feeling accused, judged, wrongly, etc. It freed them to see a camaraderie of humanity in the relationship. But behind the apologetics discussion is basically Schaeffer's understanding that when God created a real world, that is the place where we live. And when he speaks, it's a language that communicates factually about that real world. And I don't need to shift a different kind of a disc into my brain or heart in order to understand the things of God. The board of our foundation has, with much satisfaction, accepted to entrust into the good care of the L. Russ Bush Center for Faith and Culture, under its director, Professor Bruce Little, the Francis Schaeffer Papers, his wide correspondence, taped lectures and discussions, background notes, early manuscripts, films and articles that span a lifetime of works until his death in 1984. Edith Schaeffer legally transferred this material to the Schaeffer Foundation, which she had founded in 1988 with the hope that it would be made accessible to anyone interested in the roots and the development and breadth of her husband's ideas and cultural analysis. While the Foundation continues to own the material, we have been unable to scan the paper ourselves for lack of funds and equipment. We're therefore extremely pleased to have found in Professor Little and you at SEBTS a willingness to prepare and preserve the resources for such study and to make them available both here and at the Foundation Study Center in Gryon, Switzerland, and in our affiliated work, the Hill House in Austin, Texas. Let me give you a few remarks about who Francis Schaeffer was. He was a pastor, philosopher, author, and lecturer across cultural and denominational lines, who brought into his thoughts and teaching conversations and questions of thousands of interested people, both Christian and non-Christian. Schaeffer felt extruded into these settings, enriched by them, and truly thankful. Through his life and work, Francis Schaeffer significantly contributed to the release of much of the Church from fear and isolation, which had resulted from the powerful influence of a theological meltdown under the Enlightenment liberalism. And he helped her regain intellectual confidence to replace a widely embraced escapist spirituality. He showed the link between erroneous ideas and their cultural political consequences in order to be able to speak more effectively to a wounded generation. Francis Schaeffer came to believe historic Christianity as the only sufficient framework for understanding both the greatness and the cruelty of man throughout known history. He called for and demonstrated a compassionate and intellectually appreciating way of telling modern man the truth of God's real existence in the context of the real world, of real history, real evil, and real redemption. Where our calling is to be human beings and our citizenship is exhibited by love of God and love of our neighbor.